In the fall of 1993, an elderly man with thick white hair and a kind face walked into a laboratory in San Diego. His name was Eugene Paulie, and he was about to upend everything scientists thought they knew about memory and human behavior. A year earlier, Eugene's life had taken a terrifying turn. While preparing for dinner with his wife, Beverly, he asked a question that would change everything. "Who's Michael?" he asked. When Beverly mentioned their son was coming over, Eugene no longer knew his own child. The next day, a sudden, catastrophic illness, viral encephalitis, ravaged his brain. This common virus, known for causing cold sores, had made a rare and devastating journey into his mind, destroying a small, oval-shaped area near the center of his brain, where thoughts and memories reside. Eugene slipped into a coma, and for 10 days he was close to death. When he finally awoke, he was disoriented, couldn't form sentences, and sometimes even forgot how to breathe. But he was alive. Doctors were amazed by his recovery. His body and nervous system were largely unscathed, but scans revealed shadows at the center of his brain. He couldn't remember the day of the week, the names of his doctors, or even his friends. Soon, Beverly noticed something even stranger. Every morning, Eugene would get out of bed, cook bacon and eggs, then go back to bed and listen to the radio. 40 minutes later, he would repeat the exact same routine over and over again. Alarmed, Beverly sought out specialists, leading them to a memory researcher at the University of California, San Diego, a professor named Larry Squire. A tale of two brains. Larry Squire had spent decades studying how the brain stores memories. When he saw Eugene's brain scans, he was struck by how similar they looked to another famous patient in medical history, a man known as H.M. H.M.'s real name was Henry Molaison. After a bicycle accident and years of severe seizures, he underwent a radical surgery in 1953. The procedure, which involved removing his hippocampus and surrounding tissue, successfully stopped his seizures but left him unable to form any new memories. From the day of his surgery until his death in 2008, H.M.'s brain was frozen in time. He had to reintroduce himself to doctors and nurses dozens of times a day. He couldn't remember a song he had just heard or a room he had just entered. When Squire compared Eugene's brain to H.M.'s, he saw that both had empty, walnut-sized chunks in the middle of their heads where memory should be. Yet Eugene was fundamentally different. H.M. had to be institutionalized for the rest of his life, but Eugene lived at home with his wife. He could carry on conversations and perform tasks that H.M. couldn't. Eugene could remember events from his youth, but not from the last 3 decades. He couldn't remember his grandchildren's faces or that he had just been sick. However, he still had all the habits he had formed in his youth. The mystery deepens. Larry Squire began to test the limits of Eugene's memory. One day, he asked Eugene to draw a map of his own home. Eugene couldn't do it. He didn't even know how to get out of his bedroom in the morning. Minutes later, however, while Squire was typing, Eugene got up, walked down the hall, and entered the bathroom without any hesitation. He was able to find the kitchen and get a jar of nuts when he was hungry, even though he couldn't describe where the kitchen was located. This led to a new set of questions. How could a man who couldn't remember his house still find the bathroom? How was he forming new behaviors? The most stunning discovery came when Eugene slipped out of the house one morning while Beverly was getting dressed. She panicked, knowing he would never be able to find his way back home. But after a frantic search, she found him in the living room, watching television, with a pile of pine cones he had collected on his walk. He had gone for a walk by himself and found his way home. This led Squire and his team to suspect that something was happening in Eugene's head that had nothing to do with conscious memory. The scientific revolution. To understand this phenomenon, we must go to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where scientists were conducting groundbreaking experiments on rats. They were studying a part of the brain called the basal ganglia. While the outer layers of the brain are responsible for complex thinking, the older, more primitive structures deep inside, like the basal ganglia, control our automatic behaviors. In one experiment, rats were placed in a T-shaped maze with chocolate at the end. Tiny wires implanted in their skulls recorded their brain activity. Initially, as a rat wandered through the maze, Its brain was working furiously, processing every scent and sight. But as the scientists repeated the experiment, the rats started to zip through the maze faster and faster, and something amazing happened. Their mental activity decreased. The rat's brain was working less and less. The basal ganglia had taken over, storing the sequence of actions as an automatic routine. This process is called chunking, the three-step habit loop. This chunking process is the root of how all our habits form. It's why something as complex as backing a car out of a driveway becomes an automatic, thoughtless routine. The basal ganglia takes over, allowing the rest of our brain to focus on other tasks. Scientists say that habits emerge because the brain is always looking for ways to save effort. This is a huge advantage for us, as it frees up mental energy for more complex tasks, like inventing new technologies. The basal ganglia uses a clever three-step system to determine when to let habits take over. This is the habit loop, the cue, a trigger that signals the brain to go into automatic mode. This could be a specific place, a time of day, an emotion, or even the company of certain people. The routine, the physical, mental, or emotional action that follows the cue. The reward, the payoff that helps the brain decide if this loop is worth remembering. This can be a physical sensation, like a hit of sugar from a donut, or an emotional one, like the feeling of pride. Over time, this loop becomes more and more automatic, and the craving for the reward grows, solidifying the habit. Habits are not destiny. The discovery of the habit loop is so important because it reveals a basic truth. When a habit emerges, the brain stops fully participating in decision-making. The pattern will unfold automatically unless you deliberately fight it and find a new routine. But there's good news. Habits are not destiny. They can be ignored, changed, or replaced. Simply understanding the structure of the habit loop makes them easier to control. You can fiddle with the gears and change the routine. As scientists and Graybiel found, habits never truly disappear. They are encoded in our brains, which is a huge advantage. You don't have to relearn how to drive after a vacation. But it also means that bad habits are always lurking, waiting for the right cues and rewards to reemerge. This explains why Eugene could still find his way home despite his memory loss. The cues, like a certain tree or mailbox, were the same every time, so his habits guided him back to his front door. It also explains why he would eat breakfast multiple times a day. The cue, the morning light, or the sound of his radio would trigger his routine, and he would automatically follow the script dictated by his basal ganglia. The dark side of habits. While habits gave Eugene his life back, they also had a dark side. As he got older, his sedentary habit of watching television for hours became a health concern. He would root around for bacon and eggs because that was his routine, even though the fridge was stocked with healthier foods. Squire's experiments with Eugene showed that it's possible to learn and make unconscious choices without remembering anything about the lesson. This proves that habits, as much as memory, are at the root of how we behave. They influence our actions without us even realizing it. In one powerful experiment, researchers trained mice to press a lever for food, which became a habit. When the food was poisoned or the floor was electrified, the mice knew it was dangerous. But when the cues were present, they unthinkingly pressed the lever and ate the food, even as they became violently ill. The habit was so ingrained, they couldn't stop themselves. This mirrors human behavior. Fast food consumption, for instance, often starts as a small, occasional act but becomes a twice-a-week habit as cues and rewards tighten the loop. Companies like McDonald's deliberately standardize their stores and engineer their food to create a powerful, consistent habit loop in their customers' minds. Finding hope. Eugene's story, though tragic at times, also holds a powerful message of hope. Beverly learned to use her understanding of habits to help him. By changing the cues, for example, removing bacon from the fridge, she could short-circuit his unhealthy routines. As Eugene's health declined, his daughter, Carol, discovered another way to influence his habits. Nurses couldn't get him to stop pulling off his heart monitors because he couldn't remember their threats. But when his daughter suggested they compliment his good behavior and appeal to his pride, he loved it and did what they asked. The science of habit formation is a major field of study today. Researchers have learned that habits are powerful but also surprisingly delicate. They can emerge without our permission but can also be deliberately designed and reshaped by changing their components. Eugene's life demonstrated that it's possible to live a rich and happy life even when memories are gone. His final moments were a testament to the fact that even without memory, we are still guided by our core routines and feelings. His last words to his daughter, "I'm lucky to have a daughter like you," were an emotional habit that had been ingrained for decades. He just never remembered saying them. After his death, Eugene was celebrated by researchers, with his brain studied in hundreds of labs. He had wanted to do something important with his life, something that mattered. And through his unique case, he did, forever changing our understanding of the unseen force that shapes us all. He just never remembered any of it.